I have suffered a lot in my life, um, financially, mentally, physically, every imaginable way. And I judged myself. I thought for the longest time something is wrong with me. Other people thought that as well because they judged me, and I believe that too. It even started when I was a child, even in school. I was my brain was different. I did something different, and so something was wrong with me. Then I kept carrying it around, and I didn't want to show who I was because I kept trying to fit in with everyone or what was supposed to be or what was acceptable. And so maybe I could just stay quiet. And people would say I was just a shy person and I was just hiding out because I was fearful. That was the biggest thing. I was afraid of everything. And the times that I spent suffering, times I spent in the hospital, times I spent moving through every kind of imaginable tragedy, I started to discover what was wrong. It wasn't that something was wrong with me. It was that I was denying myself. I didn't want to be me. That's what I was doing. I was just I was just hiding it forever. And I kept suffering. And then you discover that the suffering always for any person is because you can't accept who you are, or you don't want to become who you are, or you don't want to know. And that's what I was doing. And I certainly didn't want to tell people. And today is December 17th, and I wrote a message, received a message for tomorrow, December 18th, that says, none of you could have known. We can't know who we're going to become in life. We just can't, because we're each given something different. And then I wrote an article about how do you explain when you discover the order of the universe, because that's what began to happen. And then I wanted to tell others because I didn't want other people to suffer. I've always been that person from a child. I said, I want the world to be better. I want people to know who they are, and I've always operated that way. But I couldn't talk about how I knew that. I couldn't talk about how that was coming to me because it didn't make sense to me, and it didn't make sense to anyone else either. And the reason it didn't make sense because no one had seen it. And so when you develop something new, that's even though it's going to give you everything you want, if it's new, you can't accept it. I was doing that. And when I would present this work to so many other people, they couldn't accept it either. Because we have a limit on what we can believe if we haven't seen it before. And what I was doing, what I had done, what I received through Wilhelm, no one had seen before. And I just thought, I've got to do something. And so what happened was, now I can talk about it. It's when you can let go of the resistance that you have. And you will see that on the messages that I received for the 18th, it's a spiral. The messages on that every single day on the 18th was talking about the judgment that we have and the disbelief and the process. And that spiral is a process in consciousness. How much can we believe? How much can we accept? And that's individually and collectively as well. There is nothing happening in the world accidentally, in your life or in our world. It's what we choose to believe and when we choose to move to accept ourselves. That's what it is. And everyone's not going to do that. And I had to start doing that. I talked about going on to coast. Now, this is something that is going to potentially shift everything because there'll be so many people hearing this information because I have to give it to them. Because I do know that we don't have to suffer. Our world doesn't have to look like this either because Wilhelm has given us all of that information. Now, I recognize not many people will believe it because we have built-in judgment. We have built-in disbelief as well. And that's what I had. And so talking about it was challenging. We exist in consciousness. Consciousness changes as we evolve. But then we move through periods, and this is all about science as well, that you will see there are different times in our lives and in our world where the changes in our planets will cause us to react or be in a different place. Now, I couldn't have known that before, but I received it. And I just have to say that because I have to finish it. I have to put it there because even when I'm told this is one of the greatest contributions to humankind, what I had received, I couldn't accept that. It didn't seem like it could have been me that was doing that. You've had the same thing. We all do, because we couldn't have known. But then when we resist, we don't help ourselves or anyone else. And that's what I must move beyond now. And so I'm grateful that the show is coming up. It's now been moved. It was going to be in January. Now it's going to be December 29th. And so I will be presenting this to so many more. I put an offer. I wanted more people to come in, and I put really an offer in for a few people, which any person could do, because I said if more people were to do this, number one, they would change their lives. They would understand that there was nothing ever wrong with them, that they had something that needed to be developed. That's all that it was. And then they would start telling so many others. And that's what I wanted, because I knew that if this work got to so many other people, we would have a very different world. Because people would let go of their hatred of themselves and others and the judgment and all those things that we each move through, because that's in consciousness, and it's also generational. Meaning we keep holding on to old things, and that's where we are now. And I was perpetuating that by not being completely honest, because I couldn't. It was just, this is too much. And who's going to accept it? But today, I have to do that. And as you see, I mean, it's been shocking for me the last few days of understanding this. And then I go into this regret, because when I see people suffering, I'm like, I know that if I could have done something different, maybe they could have understood. If I could have spoken up, if I could have been out there. You probably have the same thing. We all do. And I'm no different. We all are supposed to bring something new to the world. That's called evolution. But at times when you bring something that no one has seen, it's just challenging, even though it will give you everything you want. And then Wilhelm brought that up. They said, we become we've become accustomed to suffering. And so we can't think that it could be any different. And that's what I was doing. Years ago, when I started to let this information out, I was starting to accept it, and people said, Roger, you should be charging so much more for this. That was, again, a generational barrier that I had. Well, first of all, I didn't know. I didn't know that this had never been done, and so how could I command that much money? Now I know what it's worth. And that's what I have to own, and I want others to own what they're worth as well. That's exactly where we are. But I had to give you this today because those are the changes. Those few slots are available. They're going to be gone, and I'll have to do something different. And when I reach all of these other people, because when I do that show, I'm going to lay it all out. I put something out about I discovered the order of the universe, which means that every single person has worth and value, and they have a place. They just have to work through whatever limitations, whatever stuff might have been holding on to in their lineage, whatever it might have been, but you can change it. That I do know. Even I wrote a book years ago called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom, because I knew then that that was the only thing holding anyone back, and it was the only thing that was holding me back. But I kept doing it. You don't get there right away, but today I'm there. I'm 75. Everything has changed. All that stuff that I have gone through is changed. And I know that more people will do the same thing if they have this work. And that's what I'm talking about. There are no limits to what we can achieve. Please view everything. It's going to help you so much because you are doing the same thing. We're all in the place right now of moving through some difficult times in our consciousness in terms of accepting something and understanding our world. But again, Wilhelm has given us all that information, and you'll see so much of it. Thank you so much for being here.